Hello, I'm Kim Bischoff, the Executive Director of Neurofibromatosis Network, and we would like to welcome you to our webinar series. These webinars have proven to be an excellent way for the network to reach individuals across the country. Tonight we'll be discussing an issue that affects many of our NF children, bullying. We'll learn how to empower our children with tools to use when someone exhibits aggressive behaviors towards them. Susan Fitzsimonds began her career as an educator 11 years ago as a second-grade teacher. During this time, she pursued her master's in counseling from Oakland University. She obtained a kindergarten through 12th grade counseling endorsement, a counseling license, and specialization in children and adult therapy. She is currently in her 8th year as an elementary counselor working with children in kindergarten through 6th grade. Susan has also facilitated Love and Logic parenting courses and led presentations on the topics of bullying, cyberbullying, self-esteem, and parenting. She has a passion for helping children increase their self-esteem, overcome adversity, and learn skills for dealing with difficult situations. Susan lives in southeast Michigan with her husband, 3 children, and a miniature schnauzer. Tonight, we're very fortunate to have Susan, the author of The Hero in Me. The book she uses is a cornerstone of her anti-bullying presentation. In this webinar, Fitzsimonds will define the aggressive behavior of bullying and offer students methods of dealing with bullies. Now, I have just a few instructions for everybody. After the talk tonight, we'll have some time for questions and answers. If you called in on the speakerphone, you'll be able to click in with the green hand icon if you have a question at the end of the presentation. And actually, Susan has offered to take questions during the presentation as well. If you've dialed in using your phone and you're on the conference call, I can unmute your phone and you can ask the question verbally. Otherwise, you can hit the question bar, type in your question, and I'll read them aloud. Also, to remove that webinar control panel from the view of your screen, click the orange rectangular button with the arrow, and it'll take it out of your view. And now I would like to introduce to you Susan Fitzsimonds. Thank you for joining us, Susan. Thanks for coming tonight, Susan.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, we're looking forward to your talk this evening.
Good. We're all set. I have a couple of things that I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth between. My PowerPoint is up. In addition, I am going to bounce back and forth to share with you some different pages of my book. So with that being said, it's actually where I want to start. This is my book, The Hero in Me. And I wrote the book because actually my son was totally obsessed with superheroes. And I wanted him to know that a true hero is someone who does acts of kindness on a daily basis. But in coupling that with my career as a teacher and as a counselor, both in the schools and privately, I knew that bullying was a huge issue for most kids. So I focused that idea in my book. So I'm going to get it started. There's a hero in me. It's not hard to find. I have to listen to my heart, soul, and mind. Each day of my life I have choices to make, and these choices decide which road I will take. One of them's positive. It makes me feel proud. The other, it's not. I just follow the crowd. Now, the book continues on to talk about what these choices are for kids and how they go about making the right choices, even when, for example, on this page, someone is being a bully. It says, then the hero in me came out with a roar, and I said, you can't play here like that anymore. And we talk throughout the story about how to stand up for yourself, how to feel strong, how to be courageous, even when it's really scary to do so. Because on this page, he is feeling incredibly proud of himself for the things that he said to the bully. This is one of my favorite pages. When you notice someone is feeling upset, the best thing to do is to help them forget. Offer a compliment. Invite them to play. Give them a smile and brighten their day. That's when you'll know a friendship is real, because they look out for you and care how you feel. I'm going to go into later 12 tips to bully-proof your child. And as I do that, I think it's really important for kids to take into consideration what truly is a real friendship. There is pause throughout my book for conversations with our kids on multiple different levels. So with that being said, I'm going to go back to my slideshow here, and we will go into how to feel bully-proof. First things first is that we do need to understand the difference between bullying versus normal peer conflict, or in the schools what's sometimes referred to as mean kid behavior. Because all kids can display mean kid behavior from one point to the next. They all lose their tempers. They all make impulsive choices from time to time. But the difference is when I know I'm dealing with a bullying situation, it is repeated. It happens over and over. Notice that in quotes, there is an imbalance of power. Someone is trying to control or gain status over another. I'm going to skip over some of these videos because we will run out of time in an hour's time length if I don't. So how do you know if you have a bullying versus normal conflict? Oh, going back to the videos, I will put them on my website. So if you want to see them, the What is Bullying video, there are some clips from the video, the movie, The Bully, that came out a while back, maybe a year ago. It is a really good thing to go through and look at, but if your child is, I'd say, younger than middle school, it might not be appropriate. You'll want to look at it first. Anyway, so the difference between bullying versus normal conflict. Normal conflict is accidental. It is occasional. This person, when confronted, will change their behavior. They learn a lesson. And notice the very last bullet point says it's part of building relationships. This has got to happen for kids. And it's my belief that the worst thing that we could do for kids is that every time they have a conflict, to jump in and try to solve it for them. Because they need this. They need normal conflict. Anytime anyone is in a new situation, I joke with people and say, you know, when I first got married, our first year of marriage was not full of the honeymoon stage. It was full of this normal conflict stage. So we can laugh about it now because we've been happily married for 11 years. But at times, it felt like something was wrong, when in reality, it was part of learning what works and what doesn't work. And each different life stage that a child goes through, they are going to experience the normal conflict stage. That doesn't always mean that there is a bully. We could tell that a bully is involved because it's repeated. It is the same kid happening, same situation over and over. Nothing changes. It does not stop when asked. Oftentimes it doesn't stop when asked or addressed by school officials. So we know then that there is a bullying situation, and it is severe. It is part of a harmful situation, which could have psychological implications at that moment and down the road. So if you were going to put the bully in a box, here's what it might look like. Although it's very difficult to say, oh, well, because they have these things, they're going to be a bully. But there are tendencies. Number one is impulsivity. Many times they are acting without thinking. Also, attention-seeking behaviors. Oftentimes I ask schools when I'm there, or I ask students, I wonder what would happen if nobody was reassuring this bully. The picture right here is a picture from my book. because the text in that page says, if you're feeling courageous, here's what you should say. Why do you do these things day after day? I'll bet you the bully has no real reason for all of his put-downs, his anger and teasing. He might be surprised you decided to ask. His true self is hiding in his bully mask. Because the reality of the situation is that what we see in a bully is quite often anger, frustration. They might be kind of showing off in front of others when behind it, if you dig deep into that personality, there is hurt, there's fear, there is maybe guilt, sadness. So we do have to understand that they do lack empathy, but there is a reason why. Sometimes all it takes is getting to learn, getting to know that person. But these things can all add to why someone acts out in that way. And what might be the key for, oh, hey, this person is acting like a bully, we need to dig deep and find out why. That is so important to me, that we actually give them some empathy and think to ourselves, why are they acting like this? Because this frequent misbehavior and difficulty following directions and rules, elevated sense of self, this sense of entitlement is happening for a reason. So then we have the target, which is oftentimes someone who is passive, maybe physically weaker. They lack social skills, not all the time, but quite often. This is huge. They might have low self-esteem or feel insecure. And then I put this down here because I believe that the advice of ignoring the bully only leads to more abusive behavior. I want all kids, no matter how insecure they feel, no matter how weak or unsure they feel of the situation, I want them to speak up. I think that if they are quiet, all it says is a very loud message. Go ahead and continue to, make me the butt of your jokes because I'm not going to say anything. When if you remember from the previous slide that the bullying is doing this to seek attention. They want to gain this macho status that they're trying to get from their peers. So if the target says nothing and does nothing, they're kind of saying a very loud message, go ahead, keep doing it. I won't do anything about it. Again, I'm putting those videos on my website, which is theheroinmebook.com. You're welcome to go to that website and check out the videos that I'll put links. They're all on YouTube. So anyways, the two types of bystanders are a huge deal. This, to me, is one of the biggest messages that we need to get out in public schools. That there are two types of bystanders, and 85% of our kids fall into these categories of bystanders. The sad thing is that most of them fall into the hurtful kind. So there's helpful bystanders and there's hurtful bystanders, and here's what they do on each side. The hurtful bystanders are, they encourage the bully, they laugh, they join in. When an adult gets involved, they cover up. And they are often saying things like, well, I don't know what happened, or I didn't see what happened. And the last two bullets are the biggest things for me right here. This one, the hurtful side, these guys are the reason bullies exist. On the other side, the helpful ones have the power to end bullying. And why is that such a big deal? And it's because the helpful bystanders, they are the ones that are there. I'm not. When I speak to kids, I constantly tell them, I do not have the power to end bullying. If I did, I would have already done it. So with that being said, adults, parents, teachers, social workers, we don't have the power to end bullying, or we would have done it already. But these helpful bystanders, they do. So we need to create more helpful bystanders. We need to create kids that feel assertive, that stick up for their friends, themselves, that act responsibly and feel empowered. Otherwise, you have these guys on the other side, the hurtful bystanders, and they're creating the problem. The questions that we need to ask, I'm going to go back for 1 second. The questions that we need to ask kids is, what would happen if nobody laughed along? What would happen if nobody joined in? What would happen if nobody said, I dare you, or covered for the bully? What would happen if nobody encouraged bully behavior? I truly believe that if kids were not encouraging it, kids were not thinking that it was acceptable and cool, it would go away. So let's talk about it on the side of, as a parent or as an educator, how do you go about helping kids feel bully-proof? And you'll see an underlying theme in all of these 12 tips that I'm about to go through. The underlying theme is self-awareness. The underlying theme is self-acceptance. The underlying theme throughout is knowing that I have faults. And I also need to know that so does everybody else. And so that's okay. So number 1 tip, learn to laugh at yourself. And let's really put this into context and understand that if I don't make a joke of it and I don't learn to laugh it off and say, oh, hey, that's okay, other people will. And then it becomes a situation of, it's a big deal to me, so now I'm being laughed at. Instead of, learning to say, yeah, you know what, I am terrible at soccer. Oh, well, who cares? I am good at, and then listing the other things that they're really good at. There's a lot of books out there that I love, and I wrote one of them on there, Just the Way You Are by Marcus Pfister. Just the Way You Are. It's a very elementary age book, but it really goes into, you know what, I'm okay being me. And I don't have to wish that I had, that kid's athletic ability and that kid's brains and that kid's music talent. I need to know that it's okay to be me just the way I am. And so I point out those things in kids all the time as a teacher, as a counselor, or whatever. If they do something that's embarrassing, so what? Make a joke. It's okay. You're you. Now, how can we encourage this in our kids? Guess what? We can point it out in ourselves. We can point it out and say, yeah, you know what? Oh, my gosh, I did this thing. It was so embarrassing today. I have to learn to laugh about myself. I have to learn to feel okay about myself. An activity that is so fun to do when groups of kids are together is to write down something that they've done, to write down something that they feel silly about, and maybe even not put a name on it and guess who it is. You can make it like, who had the biggest one, who had the best one, the funniest one, and almost make it like a point of pride, like, oh, I can laugh about that, because it's all about who I am, and all the good and all the bad encompass who I am. So tip number 2 is the 2-for-1 deal. Now, this is all about, I have to know my faults, but I also have to focus on my strengths. And now, I think that as a parent, in a loving way, we need to foster an attitude of, yeah, you know what, yeah, that might not be your strength, honey, but you are good at this, and this. Because oftentimes what we do as parents, and I am guilty as charged of this, is that we just want to kind of cover that up and skate over it and say, my kid could be singing as loud as can be and as terrible as can be. And as a parent, maybe it's okay for me to say, yeah, honey, you know what, maybe singing is not your gift. But you are good at, drawing, and you are good at writing, and you are good at mathematics, and you are good at playing first base in t-ball. Because the point here is simple, is that if I don't point them out to my child in a loving manner, somebody who's going to be a bully, they will. Because I could be good at 15 things and bad at one. But when I am going to get teased, let's face it, it's about that thing I'm bad at. So I'm good at, me personally, I'm good at musical things. I am good at, I'm good at singing. I'm good at reading. I'm good at writing. But I'm terrible at sports. So what am I going to get teased about? I'm going to get teased about sports. So let's not skate over that. My nephew, he's short. He's short for his age. He is actually in 4th grade, and he's the same height as my 1st grade son. So if my sister-in-law were to say to him, "Oh, honey, no, you're not short. It's okay," she would be doing him a disservice. She needs to say, we all need to say, "You know what, yeah, honey, you are. You are a little bit smaller than the other kids. But don't let that get you down, because you're good at drawing. You are good at writing." So let's do this. As we look at things, this typically can be a dinner time conversation, the 2-for-1 activity. Tell me 2 things that were good today and 1 that was bad. The point here is always outweighing the positive with the negative. Tell me 2 things you love about yourself and 1 thing that you don't like. Tell me 2 things that you're proud of, 1 thing that you're not. And we can put any 2-for-1 thing in, filling in the blank. But like I said, again, this could be dinner time conversation. This could be driving in the car on the way to school. "Oh, hey, you know what? Tell me 2 things that you're looking forward to today and 1 thing that you dread." But again, the point remains, always outweigh the positive with the negative. There's always twice as much positive in my life than there is negative. Tip 3. This is one of my favorites. Joining a group, and I am not saying, some families would look at this and say, "Oh, okay, well, she says I should be a member of at least 3 groups, so I need to join t-ball, flag football, and the church choir. And that means that I'm going to be gone Monday night, Wednesday night, and every other Friday night." And that's not what I'm saying. I do feel that kids sometimes at school pigeonhole themselves into 1 social group. And they only feel comfortable in 1 sitting. And so what I'm saying is that maybe another group is extended family. Maybe a group is neighborhood friends. Maybe a group is something that they can join at lunchtime at their school. A lot of schools have academic groups, chess club, or drama groups running at lunchtime. And they can join those. A funny story about this is that, my son, the one who inspired my whole book, all excited about superheroes, is also very athletic. So he likes to play flag football. He likes to play t-ball. But I told him one day when I came home, I said, "You know what, buddy? I think you're going to join the church choir." And he's like, "Oh, no, I don't think I want to do that." And, I'm thinking, no, I think you need to. Because the other thing that joining various groups or organizations teaches kids is how to relate to different personalities in different situations. So if they have, their peer group, they're going to relate one way to them. If they have a church group or some sort of, different youth organization, maybe it's a Boys and Girls Club or whatever, they're going to relate differently to those people. They're also going to relate differently to kids that they play sports with. Maybe they do karate. They're going to relate differently to them. They're going to relate differently to the chess club kids. So learning how to react or act in different situations is really a key life skill that all people need to learn how to have. So this builds self-esteem. This helps kids feel better about themselves. This allows kids that if someone in my chess club is teasing me, that's okay, because I have these guys over here, and they accept me, or these over here, and they accept me. Be proactive is my fourth tip, and that comes from a really awesome book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Kids, or Happy Kids, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, The 7 Habits of, it's by Sean Covey, and Sean Covey has this, the 7 habits, which he has related to highly effective families, highly effective teens, highly effective people. It spans all ages. It spans all groups, cultural, anything. The 7 habits work in any situation. Be proactive is only 1 out of the 7. So if you're writing anything down, jot down 7 habits of highly effective, fill in the blank, and look it up on Amazon, because those are really awesome life skills. So anyways, be proactive is the first one. And what that means is that I don't wait until something happens to me to figure out what I would do about it. Because the opposite of being proactive is to be reactive. And I don't know how you are, but when I am being reactive, I'm not always my sharpest. I'm not always my best. And I know that young people, when they're being reactive, the first thing that pops into their head, I'm constantly saying this to students, usually the first idea you have is a bad idea. The first thing that comes into your head when you are feeling bullied or you are feeling pushed against a wall, so to speak, the first thing you want to do is a bad idea. So if you're being proactive about the situation, you already have a plan in place. What you do is you say, all right, what would I do if someone was mean to me at school? What would I do if someone was mean to my friend? What would I do if I got bullied on the bus? And oftentimes, bullet point number 3 says, develop a one-liner. Now, in my book, I have in the back 20 things that a hero would say to a bully. These are 20 things that kids can look at and memorize and say, you know what, yeah, I feel good about saying this one right here. My favorite one out of those 20 is, oh, it's written right on there, why do you care so much about me? Why do you care so much about what I do? Why do you care who I talk to? Why don't you leave me alone? They could say, so what? They could say whatever. And the key there is that whatever the bully says, you say the same thing. Because you can't reason with someone who is just, you know, rattling things off or just being mean. If someone's being mean, they're not being reasonable. And so you pick one thing, you're proactive, you pick one thing to say, and you repeat the same thing over and over and over, no matter what they say. And the key here, this one-liner thing, it came from another really great program. I'm doing a lot of plugs here for other programs, but the one-liner came from Parenting with Love and Logic. If you're not familiar with Parenting with Love and Logic, it is another awesome, incredible program for different parenting skills, and they say to use that when you're arguing with your unreasonable teenager, or when they're trying to argue with you, I should say, or even, you know, your unreasonable teenager or your unreasonable 3-year-old. It's all the same. You can pick a different one-liner, and my favorite happens to be, you know, I'll say to my kids when they're arguing, oh, that is so sad. And then no matter what they say, I just say the same thing over and over again. You cannot get through to someone who just wants to be argumentative with you. Oh, that is so sad. And my kid will say, you know, like, well, everybody else can. And you're like, oh, that is so sad. You must not love me. Oh, I'm so sad that you feel like that. So this strategy that's from Love and Logic, parenting, is relatable in the bullying situation. We teach our kids, you pick one thing to say. Maybe it's whatever. That's a really good one. You know, and they say, you know, you're so dumb or you're a loser. Our kid says, whatever. We don't want you to play here. Okay, whatever. Whatever the mean thing is, they repeat the same phrase. Now, I have to constantly teach kids, though, say what you have to say and then walk away. Never try to have the last word, because that's what a bully needs. They need the last word. And if you try to have the last word, you'll drive yourself crazy. So you don't ever try to have the last word. So you say what you have to say, and then you walk away. So you say, why do you care so much about what I do? And then leave. Take the wheel is all about taking back control. You always want your student, your child, your group, whoever it is, if you're a therapist or if you're counseling and you're doing a group, whatever it is, you want them to have control of themselves. I don't want my child to say to me, well, they made me feel so bad. They made me cry. They made me react by punching them in the face. They made me do that because I got so mad at them. All right? It's not about that. It's if we teach kids, you need to take control. You have to own it. You have to own your own beliefs. You have to own your own thoughts, and don't let them do that. Now, here's some activities that, you know, are possible for helping kids gain control. Really, anytime they say something like, well, they made me cry, we can take that right back and say, whoa, 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 back up. Do not say that. You cried because they hurt your feelings. Let's go back on figuring out how to make sure that doesn't happen. And let's face it, one of my favorite things for a child to say to someone who is bullying them is asking a question. Most importantly, a why question. Because in a conversation, very typically, the person asking the questions has the control. And it says right here, what is bullying about? Control. So the person asking the questions is controlling the conversation. And so if a student who is feeling bullied asks the bully a question, they instantaneously gain control of the conversation. And if they then walk away after they ask a question, they send another very strong message, is that, yeah, think about that question, but I really don't care what the answer is. So the questions that I posed on the previous page, why do you care so much about me? Why do you care what I wear? Why do you care what grade I get? Why do you care what I look like? Why do you care who I hang out with? Why don't you leave me alone? Why questions? They help kids take control of a situation that might otherwise feel powerless or out of control.
Susan, this is Kim. I want to interrupt because there's a good question or statement that just came up on the screen here. Amber and Tiffany Wells are saying, how about this one? Why do you treat me this way?
Awesome. Yes, I love it. I love it. And typically, and those are great things to say, and then what they need to learn, though, is you say that, it's almost like a rhetorical question, because a bully quite often will have a snide comment to reply back. But see, what we need to do is send the second message of, I don't care what your answer might be. Why do you treat me this way? What an awesome way to gain control. I love it. Here's another website on this one, www.bucketfillers101.com. This book has been all over the nation. Another one of my, I'm plugging another awesome book here, Have You Filled a Bucket Today? And here's what it's all about. I mean, the theory of bucket fillers is elementary. It's simple, yet it's universal. It's ageless. It's timeless. The whole theory behind it is I walk around with this invisible bucket, and my happiness is it is determined by how full is my bucket. And my bucket is full when I feel good, and my bucket is empty when I feel sad. But here's the win-win activity. The only way to fill my bucket is by doing acts of kindness for others. So let's say your child feels empty. And let's say they feel like nobody likes me, I have no friends, I don't like school, I am never riding the bus again, or, whatever it is that they're feeling completely empty. I can't do anything right, whatever it is. The only way to fill up my bucket, to gain happiness, is to please other people. And so maybe that's, if it starts as simple as our kids practice on mom and dad in a safe environment by complimenting them, or practicing on a brother or sister by giving a compliment, by saying, hey, I like the way that you did that. Wow, you're really funny. Oh, I never knew you were such a good artist. And that takes confidence, that takes a skill, but that can be learned. And by giving back, giving out to others, they will gain friendships, they will gain confidence, and they will gain this sense of I belong, which is really important. Now this Bucket Fillers 101, it's loaded with activities. This is another one, and I love this activity because, we've all had these days where we feel really confident, we feel really great. There was a day that my book received a Gold Mom's Choice Award. And the day I found out, and then the day that I got all these stickers, like 500 gold stickers that I got to stick on books, it was a great day. I was feeling really confident. I was feeling like $1,000,000. But then, I'll tell you, there have been other days that I feel like I can't do anything right. I feel like, I was doing a middle school presentation one time, and it just seemed like everything was going wrong, and these words were falling on deaf ears, and I wasn't really proud of it. Actually, I really wanted to get out of there. And so I'm thinking, wouldn't it be great if we could take our confidence from these days that we feel really good and share it with these days that we feel really bad? Because as adults, we realize, oh yeah, you know what, I'm having a bad day, but it'll all turn around. But kids think way more black and white than that. They think in absolutes. They're thinking, oh my gosh, this is terrible, everything is terrible, and it's always going to be terrible. So the idea from this is, what you need to do is have a jar or a box or something, and you know what? You put the gold star that they got in the box. But not only that, on the day that they did get a gold star, or on a day that your child is feeling really great, you have them write it down. Write a journal entry, or write a letter to themselves and say, you know what, Dear Sue, I feel great today. I got a gold star. If you're ever feeling down, remember how special you were today. Have them write it down and put it in that box. And then have their favorite aunt or their favorite, their grandmas and grandpas, or a best friend or a family friend write them a note and even seal it. You can put it in the box. And when they come home and it was a terrible day, we get it out, we look at the note and we say, remember what you wrote? Remember what you wrote on that good day? This is just something to help kids just foster a sense of self and foster a sense of, you know what, okay, it is going to get better. I can do this. All right, I love this, and this actually came from the idea of the whole superhero thing that does, again, go along with my story. Here's the theory behind this. If you could create a force field around yourself, and when someone tried to spew out bad negativity or bad words towards you, then it would hit your force field and never penetrate into your head or your heart. See, isn't that what we want to protect in our children? We want to protect their heart. We want to protect their head. Don't believe that is our message to our kids, right? Don't believe that. Don't let it get to you. Don't let it get to your head. Don't let it get to your heart. So let's create this force field, and here's how you do it. Have them write down at least 20 things that they like about themselves. And then I would even say they could write down 10 that they don't like. Take it another level and even just write down 20 things that describe you. Write down 20 books that you've read. Write down 20, because everything that you know about yourself creates a layer in your force field. I'm good at all the things I'm good at. I am, so for example, if I was going to create a force field, I would say I am a daughter. That's one layer right there. I am a sister. That's a layer. I am an animal lover. I'm kind. I'm compassionate. I'm considerate. I'm terrible at math. That's okay, because that creates a layer. Self-awareness, the more I know about myself, the more I can accept myself. Because you will find, no matter who you are, the more you know about yourself, you could write it down. Your good will always outweigh your bad. And if you really take a look at people, what we always see is the positive. We always see the good. We need to let kids know that everybody has faults. Some of them are more visible than others, but that doesn't mean they don't have them. It's like that bully mask. Their faults just might not be as easy to see. They're hiding them. They can hide them underneath something better. But if you can create this force field of self-awareness, then what happens is, yeah, go ahead, say something mean to me. It hits my force field. Maybe it breaks a layer. That's okay, because I have 19 more. It might break a layer of my force field, but it will not get into my head, meaning I'll never believe you. I will never believe that I'm a loser because you say so. So that's what having the force has to do with, and good old Violet from Mr. Incredible. Pavlov's dog theory is all about conditioning, and what he did was, this crazy scientist, he conditioned dogs to salivate at the ringing of a bell. So he rang a bell, he gave him a treat. He rang a bell, he gave him a treat. He rang a bell, he gave him a treat. And eventually, the dogs would salivate at the sound of the bell, whether they got the treat or not. Now, what does that have to do with kids and bullying? Bullies have a way of conditioning our kids to feel like they don't matter, or that school is miserable, or that they don't belong. So what they do is, this is what happens. Our kid gets on the bus, and they get made fun of, and they sink a little lower. And then our kid walks through the hallway, and somebody knocks their books down. Their self-esteem goes a little lower. Then they get into class, and, you know, someone says, oh my gosh, you got that grade on that? That was so easy for me. Their self-esteem goes down a little lower. So as time goes on, the bullying or the negativity is conditioning our children to feel like, I don't matter. I'm not good enough. I don't belong. I can't measure up. So what do we have to do? This is such a hard one to combat. But we have to gradually increase that back up and, like I said, recondition yourself. All right? So what they do is they need to, next time they say, guess what? Walk in the hallway and this time make eye contact with 3 people. Or this time, walk in the hallway and just keep your head straight up. Do not look down. Or this time, walk in the hallway and say hi to someone. See if they say hi back. So we recondition them with little tiny positive experiences. There's also an activity where, they picture themselves having success before they actually do something about it. This is a super quick one, easy, exercise. It builds confidence. As parents, we really need to watch what we say. A funny story about this, this last bullet, kids have dog ears. It is so true. I was on my phone in my car, and my son, which actually, now that I think of it, might be illegal in some states. It's not in Michigan yet. So I'm on my phone, and my kids were in the back, and they were watching TV. So I automatically assumed, oh, they're not listening to me. And so when I got home, I was having a conversation with my sister-in-law on the phone. When I got home, my son said, Mommy, why are you mad at Grandma? And I'm looking all like, what do you mean mad at Grandma? What are you talking about? And my son says on the phone, well, you said this and this to Aunt Laura. Why would you say that? And I said, what are you talking about? Well, remember in the car when we were driving home and you said that, you didn't understand why someone would say that? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. Because see, what we say and how it is interpreted by children are 2 totally different things. If I say to, my sister-in-law, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Yeah, that was totally uncalled for. My kid thinks, you don't love Grandma anymore. Or I hear people say, something like, this one drives me crazy. What is wrong with you? To a child. What they hear, the message is implied, something is the matter with me. Or, why do you do that? Same thing. We have to consider what we are saying and how that message could be perceived by a young person. When you talk about yourself, do you worry about, oh my gosh, I gotta, oh, I can't eat that because I gotta look a certain way? We have to be so careful about what we say because it has an incredible impact on the ears that hear it. So I say, consider how you talk. Consider how those words can be interpreted. That video, again, is on my website. Here's another. This picture is from my book. It has trust, talk, tell. Trust, talk, tell. Now, one of the things that is so important about bullying is that if you have reported it to the school one time, or if your child has reported it to the school one time, often that's not enough. Because what happens is that the school will deal with it in their own way, whatever it might be, or the child will deal with it in their own way, whatever that might be. But if it doesn't go away, and then nothing else is said down the road, the counselor, the teacher, the school official, whatever it might be, they think that the problem went away. But the parent or the student might think that the school didn't do anything. So my belief here is that if it doesn't go away in a week, that child needs to go back to that same individual that they told in the school and say, you know what, Mrs. Smith, my problem is still there. Is there anything else we could do about it? And if it doesn't go away a week after that, they need to say, you know, Miss Smith, my problem still didn't go away. Here's what happened. You know, what can we do about it? Because, you know, like I said, if the communication stops among the part of the student or the parent, the school is likely to assume that the issue has gone away. Now, many times a parent will say to me, well, my child does not want me to go to the school. My child does not want me to say anything because, you know, they're worried that the bully is going to find out that, you know, they were the snitch or they were, you know, the tattletale or whatever it is. In my experience of being in the schools, and I've been in the schools for 12 years now, either as a teacher or a counselor, if someone is bullying someone, quite often it's not just one person that they're bullying. If someone is calling, you know, my child names, it's very likely that they're also calling someone else's child names, that they're also calling someone on the bus names, that they're calling someone at recess names. So if it's handled in the proper way, no one has to be like, you know, well, Johnny told me that Joey said this about you. No names ever have to be reported. So I don't like to hear that something wasn't reported to the school or a teacher because, you know, the child didn't want them to know it was them. It can be done anonymously. Oh, that was my last tip. I am going to go escape out of here and share with you the very end of my book. So let me skip. This is all the things that happened to this child along the way. But at the end of the day, the bully decides that, you know what, if I'm going to have friends, I got to change. And that's what he does throughout the story. And so it talked about how to be a hero, and now he says, I'm glad that I found the hero in me. I've decided that's who I'll always be. Some days it's easy, others it's not. I'm not always perfect. I practice a lot. It takes hard work, but that's okay. It all pays off at the end of the day. And here's all these masks. So now you know about the hero in me. Look at yourself. What do you see? You have some really big choices to make. Who will you be? Which road will you take? I have a job I'd like you to do. It's time to tell about the hero in you. It goes on to say, this is exactly how I think a child should report a bully, so that, these are all pages that are in the back of the book, but this is how they need to report a bully so that it doesn't come off as tattling. Step-by-step instructions. This is all about confidence. Confidence is a skill that I believe, and I've learned through experience, can be learned. It is not like either I have it or I don't. Truly, we can fake confidence, actually, until we truly feel it inside. And it'll happen for you. This is the page I made reference to earlier, 20 Things a Hero Might Say to a Bully. This is, again, a hero's tips for good friendships. Then that's me, and my illustrator. His name's Jeff. So, so some things about me is, again, if you want to purchase the book, it's available on Amazon. It's also available at barnesandnoble.com. If you would like to contact me in any way, info@SueFitz.books is my email address. That's SUEFITZ, Sue Fitz Books. And I will be posting and sharing some of the activities that we went through today. So again, I believe we have some time for questions. So if anybody has any questions that they would like based on what we talked about or based on what I might know but didn't talk about.
So there was There was one question, and I'll give people a chance to type some questions here. But there was one that came up, but I think you've answered it pretty well. She had said, the school I went to, the counselor did nothing. She just said, ignore them. Once I stepped up for myself, the counselor said to just tell. I got bullied for telling. So I suppose those tips you were talking about that are in the back of the book that you said you would share with us for how to report a bullying would help Amber and Tiffany there.
Yes, and typically we do need to be pretty specific on how we report a bully, and B, how we would like the school to handle it. So I think the best thing to do is for a child to go to a trusted adult in the school and say, I have a problem. When is a good time when can we talk? And that way they'll know that they have the adult's undivided attention. Oh, there it is. That way they'll know that they have the adult's undivided attention. Because a lot of times, people in the school, whether it's the counselor, the teacher, the principal, the lunch mom, there's 25 other things going on. So it's likely that if a child feels like they're getting blown off, they may have gone to a teacher and reported it when they didn't have the undivided attention of the staff member. Now, like I said, a lot of kids are worried, though, that the bullying is going to get worse. So I think it's important for a parent when they go to the school to say that, if you address this bully child, I would like for you to do it anonymously and not mention that my child was the one who brought this up. So, for example, the school could say when they approach the bully, it's been brought to my attention that you have been calling some people names, that you have been hitting some people on the bus. Because it could make it worse if they say, hey, it's been brought to our attention that you've been hitting Johnny on the bus. Okay? Because then that bully is quite likely to go back to Johnny and say, hey, why'd you tell on me? But as a parent, sometimes, unfortunately, we need to tell the school, this is how I would like for it to be handled to protect my child.
Well, I have two questions here that I'd like to read. Both of them, they're similar. Susan, so I think you could probably combine the answer for these two together. So
okay.
The first one is from Samantha, and she says, when a child is bullied for being short, and the child asks, why am I short? What should I do? And the second one is from Lace Marie, and she said, my son is only 3, but already gets a lot of negative comments and attention for his facial deformity from NF1. Any tips for helping him at his age? At this point, I tell him to say, I had surgery, but kids and adults still keep at it and say things like monster, alien, pretty painful.
It is hurtful. And, I think the answers to those questions can be twofold. Number one, what we need to do is, as I was mentioning earlier, I don't think as parents that we can, mask the fact, like I said, I was using that my nephew is short. We would be doing our kids a disservice if we said to them, oh, honey, you're not short, or, what we need to do is help them change their focus. If they do have a facial abnormality, or if they do have a cognitive disability or learning disability, if they are clumsy in gym class, or have some gross motor or fine motor difficulties, what we need to do is say, you know what, yeah, that's not your strength, maybe. That might be hurtful, but just continue. and continually get them to focus on the positive. Focus on the, and you know what, I think it would be very surprising for an adult to hear a child say, yeah, you know what, I mean, and at 3 it might be tricky, but if we could even foster this so that by the time they're 5, they might look up and say, yeah, you know what, I do look different, but I'm really good at soccer. Just so that they could say, yeah, that is the difference in me. But that does not define me. We have to point that out in huge way to kids, is that your differences do not define who you are as a person, even if the world wants to point it out that way, because people feel this need to point out other people's weaknesses and other people's faults. Sometimes they're big faults, sometimes they're teeny tiny ones. But especially in bullying situations, especially in elementary school and middle school, kids feel this need to point out the faults of others, you know. And so what we need to do is then just help kids to focus their energy and focus their attitude on the positive or the other features that define them. There's a really incredible book. It's a chapter book, so it's not going to maybe be beneficial to all, but I think maybe everybody should buy it and use it when it's relevant. The story is called Wonder, and I don't know if any of you have ever heard of it before, but it's written about a boy who has an incredibly rare illness or disease that has caused him to have severe facial abnormalities. And in this story, the boy has been homeschooled all the way up through 5th grade. But in 5th grade, his parents decided to send him to private school for the first time. And so it's told from many different points of view. I love it. I think it's a really good eye-opening book, and it really talks about raw emotion on the part of everybody that has come into contact with this sweet little boy. His name's August in the story, and he describes the same language that you're saying to me, alien, monster, is described in this story, and how this boy handles it. It's a fictional story, but it's realistic fiction. So if you're listening and you have a late elementary or middle school aged child, it's a great book. It's called Wonder.
Thanks, Susan. And Lacey Marie, the mom, she just typed back. She said, "That's great. Thank you." You have been just a wealth of information tonight, Susan. For everybody, she's agreed to have us post this presentation on our website, so it'll be available for you probably sometime tomorrow. It'll be up on our website at www.nfnetwork.org. Somebody else was asking if they could see the 20 things.
Yeah.
You can put that slide up, and then if you guys really want to study it, it'll be up on the website. Susan is also going to be sharing some additional resources we were talking about a little bit before the webinar tonight. These great tips, these 12 tips that she was giving us this evening, she's going to give those to us as well, and I'll make sure that I get an email out to everybody when we have them up and on the website, so that you can have a link to go in there and see that. Thanks again, Susan. The resources that you're providing for us, the book Wonder sounds terrific. Your book sounds amazing. We'd like to make sure that we get the link for your book on there as well, so that everybody can have access to that too.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening, Susan. These webinars and have helped the NF Network in serving in one of our goals, and that's to educate our people with NF. There's going to be a survey for all the attendees after the webinar, and if you would participate in the survey, it really helps us to put future webinars together. So I'd like to say thank you to Susan for giving up her evening this evening, and for everybody attending. and say good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night.